finalized version of Mr. Steele's statement this Friday. He's actually in possession of it and reviewing the contents of same. So it has already been settled by council.
Right. Well, could I ask you to say by 12 o'clock on Friday?
I will try my best. And I understand that it's something that's needed.
Is it so long that it can't be dealt with between now and 12 o'clock tomorrow? I mean, how long is this statement?
It's not that long, so it would be provided by 12 o'clock on Friday.
Very grateful to hear that. Thank you very much, Mr. Pegas. Mr. Maharaj, our concerns seem to have been evaporated, yes. And I'm pleased to say that. So we will have it by 12 o'clock tomorrow.
Much obliged.
Excellent. Yes. Shall we proceed?
Yeah. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Wilson. I just wanted to state that today we intend to call 5 witnesses. They have all been interviewed by the legal team of the Commission. They consented to be interviewed, and they have, based on those interviews, they have, we have had witness statements from them. Witness summaries would be read. Those witness summaries have been prepared based on the interviews which were conducted. Having been interviewed, we would not be asking them questions in respect of amplification of the witness statements, but after cross-examination, if it is necessary, we will ask further questions in respect of anything that may arise.
Of course. Well, thank you for that. It's certainly helpful when witnesses do come forward, and it makes it possible to get 5 witnesses in one day. So I'm grateful for that. I may have some questions for them myself, and Mr. Wilson may do as well, of course. And I think the first witness today is
Mr. Dexter Guerra.
Yes.
And Mr. Ronnie Bissessa will do the summary.
Marvellous. Thank you very much indeed. Of course, all of their interviews and statements are online for anyone to see. Yeah. Right, thank you. Marvellous.
Good morning.
Morning.
I, Dexter Guerra,
solemnly swear
that the evidence
I shall give to the Commission in this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, do make yourself comfortable, Mr. Guerra. Let me just tell you something of the process. So, first of all, good morning.
Good morning.
And what's going to happen is Mr. Bissessa, who sits on the end of this front row here, is going to summarise your statement to us and the interview that you provided, all right? Okay. So please listen carefully to his summary. If there's anything in it which you disagree with, please tell us at the end. Otherwise, you can confirm, please, that that summary accurately reflects that which you have told us, all right? After that happens, I or my colleague here may have a question or two, and then some of the lawyers who are here today may have some questions for you, all right? That's going to be the process.
Okay.
So, all right, well, thank you, Mr. Bissessa.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Guerra was LMCS's construction supervisor and has worked with LMCS for over 20 years. He's a PADI certified diver. Mr. Guerra submitted his principal witness statement dated 5th October 2022 to the Commission. This is at WB 419. Mr. Guerra was interviewed by the Commission on 7th October 2022 and then provided a supplemental witness statement dated 31st October 2022, and this is at WB 426. Mr. Guerra was represented by counsel at the interview. In his principal witness statement, Mr. Guerra gave the following evidence. On 25th February 2022, whilst the divers were in the hyperbaric chamber, he was stationed on the barge monitoring the compressor and airflow from the hyperbaric chamber. At about 2:45 p.m., LMCS's Andrew Farah informed him that the live feed he was monitoring suddenly went blank. Mr. Guerra confirmed to him that nothing had gone wrong with the compressor or the air supply. Andrew then searched the chamber and water around the berth but found no one. Kazim Ali Sr. arrived at 3:20 p.m. and concluded that the men were in the pipeline and a rescue plan was devised. Further divers were also contracted to come on site. At around 4:20 p.m., 3 Coast Guard officers arrived. Mr. Guerra heard knocking and shouting coming from inside the habitat. At this time, Michael Kurban, Ronald Ramutar, and Corey Crawford were on the barge. Paria's Visham Harichan informed Mr. Guerra that no one was to go into the habitat. Mr. Guerra told him that they were going to retrieve the men and couldn't leave them there. Corey Crawford and Ronald Ramutar entered the habitat and retrieved Christopher Boudra from the top of the riser. Christopher indicated that Faisal was right behind him and the divers were alive in the air pocket. Michael Kurban then entered the pipeline, reached about 10 feet into the horizontal, and he returned with a scuba set. At this point, Paria's representatives instructed that no one was to enter the habitat or pipeline, and that the Coast Guard was going to take over. No one thereafter entered the water. Conan Bello arrived after speaking to Christopher in the ambulance. He, together with Michael Kurban and Corey Crawford and Ronald Ramutar, asked to do a rescue and were denied. At around 7:30 p.m., a dive vessel arrived on site with men and equipment ready to assist. Mr. Guerra asked Paria's representatives to allow the divers to perform the rescue, and they said that Colin Piper said that no one was to enter the habitat and the pipeline. As time was passing and nothing was happening, Mr. Guerra asked Catherine Balkisoon to let them attempt a rescue, as they were willing and capable men with equipment available to make the rescue. She said she would make a call, and she did, but they again refused permission. At this time, there were a number of armed Coast Guard officers on the barge. At 9 p.m., permission was granted to install the riser extension at berth 6, and this was done. But it was only at 3 a.m. on Saturday, 26 February 2022, that permission was given to remove the blank at berth 5. In a supplemental witness statement, Mr. Guerra added the following. He, Mr. Guerra, was involved in the line clearing at the end of January 2022 over a period of about 2 weeks. He said that LMCS removed all of the liquid from the topside piping at berth 6 into sea line 66. LMCS then observed that the liquid in the riser was not at the required 30 feet from the top of the riser to install the plugs. They were having difficulty in getting the liquid out into sea line 66 riser. They then removed the contents into a slop barge until the level in berth 6 was 30 feet from the top of the riser. He said measurements were taken only at berth 6, not berth 5. The measurements were not recorded by LMCS. Mr. Guerra oversaw the installation of the mechanical and inflatable plugs on 13 February 2022. Another dip measurement was taken of berth 6, which was not recorded, but he is satisfied that the contents of the line were at the required 30 feet from the top of the riser. Mr. Guerra said that the habitat was also installed on 13 February 2022. On 15 February 2022, LMCS cut the riser and installed the flange by welding it. On the morning of 25 February 2022, Paria's Terence Rampasad Singh and Houston Majad Singh brought the PTWs, and LMCS had its toolbox meeting and discussed what they were going to do. Kazim Ali Jr. told everyone what the job was, which included that the flange would be pressure tested, the plugs removed, and the installation of the new piece of pipeline. He says that Paria's Terence Rampasad Singh and LMCS's Victor Dilpole gave the safety briefing, and the meeting went on for 15 to 20 minutes. Mr. Guerra says that when the accident occurred on 25th February 2022, Paria's Visham Harichan and someone known as Scotty were on site, and by 3:20 p.m., LMCS's rescue plan had been devised once LMCS concluded that the divers were in the pipeline and not in the habitat or the water. Mr. Guerra explains that LMCS was going to perform the rescue plan which was that he and Andrew would go into the habitat with an extra set of diving gear. Andrew would go into the pipe with a rope feet first, with an extra dive set, and he would play out the rope from within the chamber, and Andrew would have the free end in his hand. LMCS did not ask Paria for permission, but Visham Harichand told them that Colin Piper said that nobody could go into the habitat or the pipeline, and that the Coast Guard was going to take over. Mr. Guerra says that he remained on site until 8 p.m. on Saturday and returned on Sunday morning. Mr. Guerra said that he doesn't understand why Paria did not allow LMCS to conduct a rescue. He says that since LMCS was dealing with the preservation of life, that Paria could have waived all of the requirements of the permit to work to conduct a rescue. For instance, Paria waived the carbo testing on 25th February 2022 and instead relied on the penetrant tests which had been done on that day, the day the riser was cut. Mr. Guerra, is this a fair and accurate summary of your principal and supplemental witness statements?
Yes, it is.
Thank you, Mr. Guerra.
Can I ask you, please, a few questions about your evidence? First of all, I deal with paragraph 8 of your original, of your supplementary statement, please. I want to ask you a little about the. You haven't got it in front. No, I'll wait a moment while you get this, while it's produced for you. There you are. All right. This is the supplementary statement that you provided to the legal team when you came to their offices. Do you remember, Mr. Guerra?
Yes.
Yes. If you have a look at paragraph 8, it says this. We removed all of the liquid from the topside piping at berth 6. We then observed that the liquid in the riser at berth 6 was not low enough to install the plug. So let's just pause there, if I may, for a minute, all right? There is that pipework that is above the water line and the pipework that's below the water line, all right?
Yes.
There was a break put between the two. I think the elbow was taken out from the riser. Is that right?
Not before we cleared it.
Right. So you cleared, did you, the top side first?
Yes, we did.
Right. So we can put that to one side because I'm not interested in that, all right? Yeah. What then had to happen is that you needed to clear the bottom, the sub-sea level of the pipe, correct?
Yes, we did. Yes.
From what you say in your statement, the plan was not to completely drain the line, but to move the liquids, to remove sufficient of the liquid to leave you with a knowledge of a certain distance. Is that right?
Yes.
And that distance was 30 feet?
Yes.
Right. I don't know if you're much of a mathematician, but it's capable of being worked out how many barrels that would represent, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. And when you exposed the top of this pipe, you could see that it was about 4 feet down and not 30.
Yes.
So you needed to remove another 26 feet or so.
Yeah.
Correct? Now, bearing in mind that it is a U-pipe like this, roughly, if you took 26 feet out of that side, it would necessarily mean you'd want to take the same amount out of the other side so that it leveled itself up.
Okay.
Correct? So it wouldn't be 26 feet in total. It'd be 52 feet, wouldn't it? So that you've got the 26 on either side. Am I right about that?
Yes.
Am I?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. So in order to get 26 on one side, you have to take 52 because you'd need 26 on the other side as well. Because water has that habit of leveling itself, doesn't it? Unless there's a pressure on it.
Yes.
Yeah, all right, good. So it was perfectly possible to calculate how many barrels of fluid, oil or water, whatever it was, needed to be removed in order to achieve that.
Yes.
At berth 5, was it open or closed?
It was closed.
Closed?
Yes, it was.
I mean, sealed or closed?
Yes, it had the elbow one.
It had the elbow on it,
Yes.
not a flange.
No.
And when you were at berth 6, you were doing a dip test to see how far down it was.
Yes.
And once you got to your 30 feet, you were happy.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Right. But you didn't do a consummate dip test at the other end, did you?
No, we did not.
So at that point in time, at any rate, you wouldn't know where that level was, would you?
No.
You might reasonably guess that it was at 26 or 30 feet.
Yes.
Yes? Do you know how much the removal of 26 feet from either end would amount to in barrels?
No.
Have you heard the expression approximately 1 barrel per foot?
No.
You've never heard that before? Well, we've been told that that's the position, and such calculation as I'm able to do seems to suggest that that's approximately right.
Okay.
Just so that you understand and everybody else does, I'm suggesting that approximately 50 barrels or so would do the job. All right?
Okay. Yes.
Do you know that more than 500 barrels were taken out?
After the
From the sea line, 36.
in total.
Not including above the line, not above the water, just from the sub-sea level. Do you know that something in the order of 500 barrels were removed?
No, I don't.
Would that surprise you?
Yes, it would.
I mean, it's way too much, isn't it, on any view? Potentially at least 10 times more than it should have been. Yes?
Yes.
If, when you did your dip at berth 6, it was at 30 feet, and you had removed 500 plus barrels, the other end at 5 would be a lot lower than that, wouldn't it? Would have to be.
Well, assuming the line is difference in height and difference in level.
Yes. What is it that causes difference in levels on a piece of pipework?
Wherever it's situated, depending on where the seabed, depending on how the seabed is.
The shape of it.
Shape of it.
Right. What about pressure? Or air pockets? Would that make a difference?
That's what we get to know. That we didn't know.
Or did you consider that at all at the time?
No, we did not.
And did anyone else?
I can't say.
I mean, it took an extraordinarily long time to achieve, didn't it?
2 weeks, yeah.
Well, you only have to take 50 barrels out. How does it take 50?
Total.
How long does it take to take 50 barrels out of a piece of pipe? You do it with a cup. All right, it was a flippant remark, and I apologise. But 50 barrels removal from a pipeline doesn't take 2 weeks, does it, surely?
Well, it's a complete draining took 2 weeks.
The complete draining?
Yes.
Is that what you did?
Yes, the top side, the...
All right, you did some work on the top as well. All right, very well. Can I ask you, please, to have a look? You told us in this supplemental statement at paragraph 18, please. Turn to paragraph 18. You say in that statement, I reviewed the 2 method statements for the clearing of the lines before the job was done. Job was done in accordance with the method statements. Then the job would have to stop for approval from Paria. All right? That's the method statement in relation to the removal of the material from the pipe, correct? Paragraph 18. You seen that?
Can you repeat it?
Yes, I'm just paraphrasing that you considered the method statement for the removal of the oil and material in the pipeline at 18, at paragraph 18 of your statement. Do you see that? Paria issued permits to work for the installation of plugs and the clearing of lines which stated the task to be done. I also reviewed the two method statements for the clearing of the lines before the job was done. The job was done in accordance with the method statements. If there were any changes to be done in terms of method stated in the method statement, then the job would have to stop and approval given by Paria. That's what you say, isn't it?
Yes.
So you looked at the method statements for the purposes of removing the oil from the line.
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to ask you to confirm, right? Now, paragraph 29, you deal there with the toolbox meeting that took place before the work was to start on the 25th. Because there was a gap, wasn't there, between the removal of the oil on the previous period of time, what was it, 14 days or so, 13 days between that and the work starting on berth 6. Correct?
Correct.
Thank you. All right. And at paragraph 29, you say that the toolbox meeting, not everyone was present to read the permit to work. The workers broke up into groups and discussed what was relevant to their task. Everyone signs the toolbox form and so on. And there was a job safety analysis which everyone viewed. This was signed before. This was prepared by Ahmad Ali. I did not view the method statement attached to the permit to work on this day. Pausing there. Had you seen the permit to work, the method statement that was attached to the permit to work before that day?
Yes, before.
Right. So can we have, please, page 1048, which we're all becoming very familiar with now, up on the screen, please. 1048. Thank you. That's the method statement you see. It's on the screen. It says, method statement to install subsea slip-on flange on the 30-inch sea line, number 36, at berth 6. That's what you were involved with, isn't it? Yeah. Can I ask you, please, to turn, if you would, to page 1051. It's not in that bundle. It's being provided for you in a moment. But if you look at the screen, we can see page 1051 at the top of that page. We have paragraph 56 and 57. Sebastian, is that on page 1051 for him? You can turn it to 1051. Right, thank you. All right. So you see at the top of that page, 56 and 57, it says manually remove migration barrier from the line, manually deflate the line plug and remove from the line. Right? Do you understand what that means?
Yes.
That's removing the plugs,
Plug,
isn't
yes.
it? Yeah. Can I just take you back a little bit, please, to the previous page, and would you turn to number 51? Did you understand that on that day, that what was to happen, Mr. Guerrero, was that at berth 5, they were going to perform a dye penetration test on welds to determine the acceptability of the welds?
That was when the flange was welded?
Yes.
Yes.
That had already been done, hadn't it?
Yes.
And there was a team coming on at berth 5 to test, I think, a thing called a carber test.
Yes.
To test the integrity of the weld.
Yes.
Correct? That was to happen on berth 5, and then it was to come over to berth, that same team, to come to berth 6, weren't they?
Yes.
That's as you understood it, isn't it?
Yes.
Where were you?
On the barge.
On the barge at?
Number 6.
At 6. So, when you'd seen this before, had you read this method statement with others as to what was to take place? Did you read it on your own?
Well, I read it on my own and then...
All right. So on that day, 51, 2 and 3 was to do with the various tests that were to be taken on the at 5 and later to come to 6.
Yes.
All right? 54, on completion of the weld, conduct a pressure test on the flange of the weld. This is now, I think, at 6, but anyway, it doesn't matter. On acceptance, remove the test hardware. So right to the bottom of that page, these are the tests that needed to be carried out, aren't they?
Yes.
The next thing that happens is what we've just been looking at, is at 56, 57, manually remove migration barrier from the line, manually deflate the line plug and remove from the line.
Yes.
Right? Why? Why was that necessary at all?
To remove the...
Yes, those plugs. Why was it necessary to remove those plugs from the line at that time?
Because the riser, the new riser,
Yes.
was at a random length, which was longer than the other.
Right. So because the new riser was going to be longer than the old one that you'd cut off, does that mean you would have had difficulty reaching down into getting it?
Yes, it was.
Right. So the reason that you understood for these barriers to be removed was so that you were able to reach them from the new riser that was being fitted.
Yes.
Do you know how long the new riser was?
I can't remember exactly. It could be about 25 feet.
How long was the old riser?
The piece we took off, approximately about 15 feet, approximately.
15 feet.
Average.
So why was the new one 10 feet longer?
The topside piping had a little variation in it.
Right. So it was longer, and that was the sole rationale, was it, for the removal of the plugs at that time?
Yes.
Thank you. Of course, you understood that by removing those plugs inside the hyperbaric chamber, there was a downward force from the pressure in the chamber, wasn't there?
Yes.
I mean, the sea level was being forced down inside the chamber in order for it to be dry, even though it was below, much of it was below water level.
Forced out of the chamber, yes.
Yes. That took some pressure, didn't it?
Yeah.
Well, you don't sound like you're too sure about it, Mr. Guerra.
Yes, it took some...
Do you know how much?
No, I don't.
No. Yes. Now after the incident when the men were sucked into the pipe, there was a number of attempts, plans for potential rescue.
Yes, it was. There was.
And were you privy to those plans?
Yes, it was discussed between me, Kazim Senior, and Andrew Farah.
Right. And the plans that existed, there were plans prior to Mr. Boudram coming out of the pipe.
That was it, yes.
And were those plans revised after Mr. Boudram came out of the pipe?
Well, yes.
Well, again, you don't seem too sure.
Yes.
Can you help me, please, to understand? Yes. What was the plan prior to Mr. Boudram coming out of the pipe?
When Christopher came out...
No, before.
Before?
Yes, what was the plan before he came out of the pipe?
Both me and Andrew will go into the chamber with a rope.
Both of you would go in?
In the chamber, yes.
Into the chamber, yes.
Andrew would go in feet first with 2 sets at IVA. go along the line.
So you're in the chamber with him?
Yes.
And Andrew Farrar would go into the pipe, feet first?
Yes, and I'll be feeding him.
With two sets of
gears.
Dive gear, one for him and one for anyone he might encounter?
Yes.
Each set has two breathers, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So potentially you could bring 3 other people out with that lot.
No, just one. The other one, we remember, well, a dive set does have 2 breathing. We weren't going to use 2 to bring another person together with one person. So with one person will come, take with one set.
Are you a diver yourself?
Yes.
Well, the spider that fits on.
Yes, it's for body breathing. It's for body breathing. If you're in the open and the person can be next to you.
Well, or in front of you.
Or in front of you. Well, not too far from you.
Yeah, all right. Anyway, that was the plan before, and the plan after Mr. Boodram had come out changed.
Yes.
Of course, by now you knew, didn't you, that there was air pockets in the pipe?
Yes.
How did you know that?
Because Mr. Boodram said so.
Right. So he told you that when he came out of the pipe?
When he came out.
And once you found that information, that there were air pockets inside, to what extent did your plans change?
That we had the hat and hose. With
you had what, sorry?
The helmet with the hose.
Right.
To go into the chamber.
Did some other divers arrive?
Yes, and other divers.
Who had some other equipment?
Yes.
Which would have allowed someone to go into the pipe?
Yes.
With effectively an umbilical cord?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
So that the air supply would be from outside the pipe?
Surface supply, yes.
Yes, and the person would be able to go into the pipe unencumbered by tanks?
Yes.
Because he'd be able to breathe through a mask that was fitted to his face?
Yes.
Is that right? And did that also have communications?
Yes, it did.
So that the person who went into the pipe could actually speak to people who were outside?
Yes.
Why was that not done?
Beats me. I have no...
Well, help me. Why do you say it was not done?
Because we were denied.
Denied by whom?
By Paria.
Who at Paria? Who did you speak to yourself?
I spoke to Mr. Piper, Colin Piper.
By telephone?
Yes.
So you called him or he called you?
He called me and told me, in his words, we are not to do anything that the Coast Guard has taken over.
He told you the Coast Guard was taking over?
Yes, he did.
Can you recall when he told you that?
After the incident.
Yeah, but obviously after the incident. Forgive me, Mr. Guerra. It's unlikely to have happened before. But before or after Mr. Boodram came out of the pipe?
Before.
Before Mr. Boodram came out of the pipe, he told you
yes.
that you were not to go into
the
where?
Pipe, into the chamber, nor the pipe.
Neither chamber nor pipe?
No.
He told you that on the telephone?
Yes.
All right. Did you speak to him ever again on that day?
Sometime later, but I spoke to Miss Catherine.
That's Balkissoon, is it? Miss Balkissoon?
Yes.
And she is a representative of Paria?
Yes.
Did you understand her to be in touch with Mr. Piper?
Yes.
What did she say to you about going into the chamber and into the pipe?
That we didn't have any permission to do any diving. And I asked her if we could do the rescue and sometime, and she said she would call and find out. She did make the call and said no. They said no.
Were you standing next to her when she was making the call?
Yes, I was about 5 feet from her.
Right. Could you hear what she was saying?
No, I couldn't. Sorry. We're not too far from the compressor. That.
Did the Coast Guard assume responsibility for the rescue?
Not from my knowledge, no.
Did the Coast Guard have any divers?
No one in gears.
No one in
in gears, dive gears.
They weren't in dive gear? No. Did you speak with the Coast Guard?
No, they were speaking to Catherine and those of Paria.
Did the Coast Guard ever interfere with your efforts to try and effect a rescue?
When Michael was attempting to go into the chamber...
Michael Farah?
Michael Curban.
Curban, forgive me, yes, Michael Curban.
The Coast Guard was standing over the railing, and Paria was given instructions that no one to go in the chamber.
I mean, I ask the question again, did the Coast Guard ever interfere with your plans to effect a rescue?
They didn't directly say, they were going to do the rescue. No, they did not.
They didn't tell you they were going to do the rescue, but did they do anything to prevent you from carrying out the rescue?
Well, they were standing there with guns and pointing at...
Had they guns in their hands?
And the gun, well, pointing at the water when...
Well, let's be clear about this, Mr. Guerra, please. I need to understand this.
Yes, they did stop us.
Well, you seemed reluctant earlier, now you're saying they did stop you.
Yes.
What did they physically do to stop you?
They were, from my understanding with Mr. Piper, that the Coast Guard was taking over everything.
They were taking over the rescue operation?
Yes.
Right.
And that we weren't to do anything.
Right. So
they telling us that you not to go there, who were there enforcing that, and the Coast Guard, I took that to be that the Coast Guard was enforcing that.
Let's be clear. Did they point a gun at you or anything like that?
They were standing over the railing with the gun facing the water. But I wasn't paying attention to them per se. I was paying attention to more Michael, and at that same time we were getting Christopher into the boat.
And did they interfere at any other time during the course of your period on that?
No. But at that time it was clear that we weren't to do anything. And we couldn't ask for anything else.
Thank you very much. I think I could... The last question is this. At some stage, it appears that there were many, many different divers on that barge.
Yes.
And on the berth, from different companies.
Yes.
Answering to the call for help.
Yes.
Were any of them permitted to effect a rescue?
No.
Thank you. Right. I think that we'll do this. Ms. Persaud Maharaj, you're first, I think.
I have no questions.
Thank you. Anyone else before I turn to Mr. Peterson? Yes, Ms. Alfonso.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Guerra. My name is Nairi Alfonso. I represent the interests of the SWWTU. Just a couple questions, Mr. Guerra. On the 25th of February, I've read all of the divers' statements. I wasn't clear who, if you could assist me, who were the rescue divers? I'm talking assigned to the job, not after the incident happened.
The Kazim Ali was the rescue diver at the time.
Okay, so there's only one rescue diver?
Yes, and we were standby, both me and Andrew, for any assistance.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Guerra, my understanding, and I might be entirely wrong, if you're a standby diver and you have divers in the water or in a habitat, wouldn't the standby divers be people who are standing by, fully geared up and ready to get into the water immediately?
That is Kazim.
Okay. Is it usual that a standby diver will be in the water and in the same space with the persons who are diving?
Well, unfortunately, he was there at the time.
Okay. You're a diver yourself, Mr. Guerra?
Yes.
Okay. Is it usual that the standby diver is in the same environment with the persons who may find themselves in difficulty?
What he was doing was making checks in between.
Okay. So Kazim Ali was a standby diver and he was making checks in the habitat?
Yes. But he would spend most of his time topside.
Topside. So the only standby diver that was available, designated as a standby diver on that day, was Kazim Ali Jr.?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. There was one other issue, Mr. Guerra. I don't know if you could assist me because I really couldn't work out on my own. After the incident happened and well into the night,
yes,
there's some issue of installing the riser late into the night of the 25th.
Yes.
And then going across, to be fair to you, at berth 6.
Yes.
And then going across to berth 5 to remove the blank.
Yes.
Which you didn't do. The blank. You didn't remove the blank on
no,
berth 5.
not until...
Is it, okay, is there some purpose for going to remove the blank and putting on the riser? Was that something to do with the rescue? Or you just continuing the job?
No, that we were hearing knocking coming from the pipe. So okay, removing the blank was...
okay. So that knocking was at the other end on berth 5?
Well, yes. We were hearing it at number 5.
Close it, okay. So that you were moving the blank in order to get access into berth well, not the riser at berth 5?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That will be all. Thank you very much, Mr. Guerra.
Thank you. Yes. Please, Mr. Aramuda, please, can I ask, is there anyone else going to be asking questions apart from, I will obviously invite Mr. Peterson, but Mr. Ramadar, yeah, please.
Thank you. Good morning.
Sorry.
Oh, good morning, Mr. Guerra. My name is Prakash Ramadar.
Morning.
We represent the interests of the family Kurban and of Yusuf Henry for his child. I'm going to be very brief with you this morning. Going into a pipe, of course, is inherently dangerous underwater, correct?
It would pose some, yes.
Yes, some.
Yes.
But it is not out of the ordinary work within the oil industry, isn't that correct?
No.
No. And after the accident, you didn't, being on site, anticipate any extended level of danger to divers going in to rescue, did you?
No.
No. In fact, you were prepared to do whatever necessary it was to save the lives of your colleagues, isn't that true?
True.
So too was Andrew Farah.
Yes.
So too was Michael Kurban.
Yes.
Conan, you know Conan?
Yes.
And who else?
Raleigh, Corey.
So there was an abundance of persons who were willing, available, and able, these are able men,
Yes.
to do the rescue, yes?
Yes.
Now, you heard it said, or asked, whether the Coast Guard basically pointed a gun at you, right? They didn't actually point a gun at you.
No.
But they were there with Paria, who had issued an instruction
Yes.
that no one is to go in. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think you need to be careful not to align those two together before establishing the basis for doing so.
Well, I'm about to do so.
Right, well, do that first and then
Yes.
ask that question.
Thank you, sir. I always learn from my seniors. So, in your mind, was the Coast Guard there to support you or to support Paria?
To support Paria.
Yes. And let us be clear. Paria was very clear that no one was to enter not just the pipe but even the chamber. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And the Coast Guard, did they take any step to go into the chamber or into the pipe?
No.
No. None of them came with diving gear. Is that accurate also?
Yes.
Now, So when Paria's agents, that is Catherine and maybe others, were speaking, where were the Coast Guard? Were they close by?
Yes, around and on the barge and on the boat.
Right. In the same vicinity of Paria's agents, Catherine and others, is that accurate?
Yes.
Yes. What did you believe, because that is important, their presence to be in relation to the instruction from Paria not to go into the pipe?
Well,
I will repeat it if you're
okay.
so to be clear.
Yes.
What did you, because you're entitled to your beliefs, what did you believe the Coast Guard was there for when Paria was giving its instruction that no one is to go in?
Okay, by the information I got,
Yes.
that they were to perform the rescue.
Yes. But their presence with the guns, were you afraid of them in some form or fashion?
Yes, we didn't want to aggravate nobody, otherwise they would have moved us off the site.
Ah, thank you. Now, you have been involved with maritime affairs, that is, you're swimming and so, and you're diving for a long, long period of time, correct?
Yes.
You've had interactions with the Coast Guard in the past, correct? Yes or no? Is either yes or no? No. Is that an authority you believe that you could easily dismiss and ignore? I'm asking,
what's the benefit of this line of cross-examination, except sensationalism?
Well, you know, with all due respect to my learned friend, this is a very sensational issue, that 4 men were permitted to die under the authority of the state and others. And that is, if they consider it sensationalism, well, I don't know what they imagine the facts to be.
Just a minute. It's a perfectly reasonable line of inquiry.
Thank you.
As I have already pursued, to the extent of identifying whether or not the Coast Guard prevented anyone from carrying out a diving rescue operation. My understanding from this witness is that they didn't physically do that. Their mere presence may have been interpreted, rightly or wrongly, but they didn't physically prevent anyone from doing so. And if you want to pursue that, permit it to a limited degree, but not beyond, all right?
And in fact, that would have been my last question. So if we have that clarity on your answer, yes. As sensational as my friend thinks it is, crucially important, yes. Did you believe that the Coast Guard was there to enforce the instruction from Paria? Yes or no?
My opinion, yes.
Thank you so much, my lord.
Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll take you to that last, that last question. But the Coast Guard was there before, sorry, excuse me. The Coast Guard was there before any instructions came from Mr. Piper.
Yes.
So, therefore, the instructions came after the Coast Guard arrived.
Yes.
All right. Are you aware, you may or may not be, that you are the only person who was on berth 6 that evening that is saying that Mr. Piper said no one was to dive or enter the chamber and the line?
I could affirm that.
Right. Let me put to you from the beginning that what Mr. Piper's instruction was is that persons weren't to dive into the pipe.
You're wrong.
All right. And those instructions came, let me put that out of the way, one time in a speakerphone that Ms. Catherine Balkisoon held up with a group of persons there, a lot of LMCS people, and on speakerphone when Mr. Piper issued those instructions. You recall that?
No.
You don't recall a speakerphone being held up by Ms. Catherine Balkisoon?
No.
All right. But I'm putting that to you.
Okay.
Let me take you back to where I wanted to...
Sorry, can I, Mr. Peterson, can I just understand, who was on the other end of this speakerphone?
Mr. Piper.
Mr. Piper was on the other end.
Yes.
Are you able to say what it was that he was saying?
He was saying that it was dangerous and the conditions were unknown and it's dangerous to dive into the pipe. So
conditions unknown and dangerous to drive.
No one should be diving into the pipe.
I take it that's not verbatim, it's just a summary.
That's a summary.
I've got it. Thank you very much.
But let me also get from you now, notwithstanding those instructions from the commander of the incident command, those instructions were not obeyed and diving continued. Is not so?
The diving continued when Christopher came out.
When Christopher came out, that was after 5:30 thereabouts.
Yes.
And after that, diving continued.
Diving continued, yes.
For a substantial period of time.
Can I explain?
I'll give it to explain right as I finish. Let me finish what I'm putting to you. For a substantial period of time into the night.
Into the night was when we got permission to install the riser.
Coming to the riser, I am talking about even before the riser, diving continued after Christopher Budram came out.
Yes, not too long. For not too long.
How long is not too long for you?
About half an hour.
Half an
45
hour.
minutes.
No, I'm putting to you more than that.
That's your belief.
Right. So half an hour take us to 6 o'clock.
About a little after 6. When Conan came and he went in with Michael.
When Conan came, Conan went in to the chamber with Michael.
Yes.
And anyone else?
Well, Corey and Rolly was there.
To execute a dive for rescue. That must be the purpose they went down and go into the chamber.
Conan wanted to get a view of inside and...
To do what?
To do the rescue.
To do the rescue. The Coast Guard stop him?
No, after he came out,
just now, Coast Guard stop him from going down?
No.
The CG, the Coast Guard, stopped Michael from going down?
Not at that time, no. Right. But as they came out.
They went down there to rescue?
Yes.
Not to just see. Let me put to you, they went down there to rescue. Is not so?
Yes, we wanted to attempt the rescue, yes.
Right. That team that went down there, that weren't stopped by the Coast Guard, went down there not to see.
Okay.
They went to rescue. Is not the truth.
Yes.
And the truth also is that team came back up having aborted the attempt. Let's deal one thing at a time.
I'll let him answer the question, please. The question was, they came out having aborted the attempt. Let him answer that.
Yes, they came out having aborted the attempt.
They came out because they were instructed to come out.
All right. Who instructed them?
Paria.
Paria how?
By...
Remember, they're already in the habitat. Let me help you. They're already in the habitat, right?
Yes. And they came back out.
No, wait. You said they were in the habitat. They came back out because Paria tell them come back out.
No, wait. Okay, sorry. They came back out and...
Just now, you want to change what I said first?
What?
That they came back out because Paria called them out?
Yes.
You want to change that?
Yes.
Just now. So when you said that to the chairman and the other commissioner, that wasn't true?
What's that?
That Paria called them back out?
No, sorry. I phrased it wrong.
No, you phrased it untruthfully, not wrong.
Okay. But...
How did Paria call them back out from the hyperbaric chamber?
No, they didn't call them back out, sorry. When they came out...
Just now. I know I'll give you that opportunity to go to what you're about to say. But let's deal with coming out first. And when they're out, because you're at the stage of when they came out. I deal with before they come out. You ascribing all blame that you could at any moment to Paria. So they come back out from the chamber, Paria did that. But that wasn't true. Tell us. It was not the truth.
No, not.
Right.
They didn't come.
Let me get to your stage now. They come back out.
Right. They came back out and they were instructed by Andrew that Paria don't want nobody to go back in.
Right. Andrew.
Yes.
As Andrew Farrer.
Yes.
Right. We stick a pin and put him aside. Did you know why they came back out? Because they're out now.
Because Conan wasn't too comfortable with Michael, and he said he would wait for his brother.
He was not comfortable with Michael's state of mind to participate in a rescue.
Right.
Is not true.
And he will wait for his brother.
Well, I'll get to that. Isn't that the truth?
Yes.
So they went down there to do the rescue. Pursuant to which plan?
To our rescue plan.
Whose rescue plan?
LMCS.
No, LMCS is a company. We're hearing people now, we're hearing Paria-LMCS. Who developed that plan?
Mr. Kazim Ali.
Right. What were the risk assessment of that plan?
I can't say.
They did no risk assessment. Isn't that so?
I can't say because...
You can't say, but you were part of the planning?
On the barge when the incident happened.
Right. What do you mean by that? On the barge when the incident happened?
When the incident happened,
yes.
As I said, between me, Mr. Ali Sr., and Mr. Andrew Farah.
Right. That's the first plan?
Yes.
Is that the plan that Mr. Bedo and Mr. Michael Coban and they were executing when they came back up?
He would have spoken to Mr. Ali on shore.
No. Is that the plan?
Sorry, just to interrupt. Forgive me for interrupting you. I'm just not clear which Ali you're talking about.
Senior.
Kazim Ali Senior, not Ahmed Ali.
No.
No, thank you.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the plan, was that the plan that was being executed, that was aborted?
Aborted? We didn't abort.
When I say aborted, when they came back up, when Michael and they went down, Michael Kurban and Bedo and the other two went down to execute, and they came back up without going into the line. Was that the plan that they went to execute? The plan that you, Mr. Ali Sr.
Yes, only one. The changes was we were going to use the umbilical.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just advised that the 3 LMCS witnesses are in a room watching these proceedings live. They sent somebody to check it, and it's in fact so.
Right, well, we'll pause there. Can you please go and find out what's happening? Right. So this is the position. Thank you for bringing it to my attention, Mr. Mutu and Mr. Peterson. Apparently, witnesses yet to give evidence are in the witness room, as we've made arrangements in the past, and they were all looking at their telephones, apparently watching the proceedings. I thought I made it perfectly clear right at the outset to all counsel that whilst I did not and could not prevent anybody from watching these proceedings on the live link, I expected counsel to advise the people that they represent, and therefore the witnesses that are being called by this commission, not to view the proceedings. That has been in deliberate violation of what I have said. I regard it as a contempt. I am not going to take any action in pursuit of that contempt today. If it were to happen again, I make it absolutely clear I will. I have considerable powers to do so, and I will use them. I will not have this inquiry thwarted by people deliberately flouting the obvious and plain rules that exist in order to preserve the integrity of this inquiry. I'm very disappointed that anyone should feel the need to do that. They have now had their telephones taken away from them. They're put in separate rooms. I mean, what am I dealing with? Children? They will wait there until I'm ready to hear them give their evidence. Sorry that this has happened whilst you're giving evidence, Mr. Guerra. All right? And I'm now going to let Mr. Peterson continue his cross-examination of you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Guerra, when we were interrupted by the events, you were about to tell us about a second plan or something. I think you were onto a plan. Could you tell us?
No, I said that would have been discussed with Conan and Mr. Ali.
But the same plan that you all had at the beginning?
Their plan.
You want to say their plan?
What Conan was about to do.
But that's what I was asking you. You told us earlier about a plan that you developed with Mr. Kazim Ali Sr. And
that was on the badge at the time.
Is that the same plan? What were the details of that plan?
The first plan?
Yes.
That me and Andrew would go into the chamber. Andrew will go into the pipe feed first with 2 scuba sets.
Right.
And a rope.
Right.
A lifeline.
Do you know what plan that Bedo, Mr. Bedo, Mr. Kurban, and I think 2 other persons you named, what plan they were going to execute? Were you aware of that plan?
No, I wasn't.
Right. That first plan that you developed with you and Andrew, did you share that with Paria?
No one was interested.
No, I didn't ask you about their interest. Did you?
We couldn't.
Let's do it this way. What steps you took to share those plans?
When I spoke to Mr. Piper to do the rescue, Mr. Piper said, no, the Coast Guard was taking over, and that we weren't supposed to do anything, that the Coast Guard would do.
What time was that, approximately?
Right? That was could be a little after 5.
Before?
Can I be clear?
No, sorry.
Yeah. Pre or post Boudram?
Yeah, right.
Excuse?
Before Mr. Boudram came out or after Mr. Boudram?
That would be before. But before. No, Mr. Piper spoke to me after. But when we came up with the plan, Mr. Piper, via his people on the boat, said he wanted me and Mr. Farah ashore.
All right. Just ashore?
Yes, to come into the office.
To come into the office.
Right.
Which office is that?
Shipping office.
Which is the command center?
Well, I don't know if it was a command center at the time.
You didn't know it was the incident command center?
No.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
But it was to his office.
Go ahead.
The shipping office. And for a meeting.
Yes.
I told him I myself wouldn't leave the site.
All right.
And that I spoke to Andrew, and Andrew will be there.
Right.
He and
Right. So you told him that Andrew would come?
Yes.
Right. And that's the end of the conversation?
Yes.
So, nothing in that conversation did you tell him about the plan that you had?
After he said no diving, okay.
He told you no diving in that first conversation?
Yes.
Right. And that is before Budram came out?
Yes.
Right. But you didn't take him on, you continued your plan?
Well, when Budram came up and you hear somebody
Can we just
distressed?
take one thing at a time, please? Before Mr. Budram came out, you've told us that you did not explain the detail of your plan to Mr. Piper.
No.
He had told you no diving.
Yes.
Did that include into the chamber?
Into the chamber.
Did he say that, or did you just understand it as that?
He said that.
He said no diving into the chamber?
Yes.
And no diving into the pipe?
Right.
That's what he told you?
Yes.
So you didn't then tell him, well, look, we have a plan?
No.
Right. There you are, Mr. Pearson.
And he told you no diving.
Yes.
Now, let us get this clear. My instructions are, Mr. Piper never told you about no diving into the chamber. But let's go with your version for the while. After he told you that, you ignored him because you went into the chamber. Well, one of your colleagues went into the chamber.
Wait, you're mixing me up here for a second.
I'm trying not to.
Right. But you were talking about when Andrew went into the chamber?
No, I'm talking about when Mr. Piper told you no going into the chamber.
When that piece of diving you are talking about is when the incident happened. For us to have some sort of information or to share, we had to make checks on what happened, what we see. That is that is the only diving that took place then.
Right.
The next piece of diving was when Mr. Budram came out.
Right.
Right? And I was instructed, while hearing Mr. Budram knocking and bawling in the chamber, that no one was to go in the chamber. And I myself said that I don't care what anybody say. I am hearing my colleagues in there, hoping that is everybody, and that I was going to get them.
But that's what I said to you. After that conversation with Mr. Piper, the instructions weren't enforced, they were ignored, and you all continued.
Yes, because we were hearing people in distress.
Yes, that's a good reason to explain it. But what I'm saying to you is don't convey to the Commission that you obeyed what Mr. Piper said. I am not saying you weren't justified to ignore it, but the fact is you ignored it.
Yes.
Right. So let's deal with that. So you ignored it and you all continued.
All right.
Now, Kazim Ali came, you said, and you all had a discussion of a plan.
All right.
Who had that? You were part of that plan?
Yes.
The second plan, if you could call it that?
Second plan?
Involving Mr. Ali and Mr. Bedo. Were you part of that?
No. You're mixing up the first plan that we had on the badge with their plan.
I know. No, I'm not mixing it up. I am speaking of that plan, and then I'm speaking of the plan, and I brought into that second plan Mr. Bedo. Right?
Well, for some reason, I'm getting it that you're kind of crossing the two.
I am not. Do you know of, let us call it the Bedo plan. Do you know of a plan involving Mr. Bedo?
I was not involved in that.
That's what I'm asking. And Michael Kuba, you weren't involved in that? Kuban?
No. Right. That was with Mr. Andrew and...
And who?
Andrew Farah. And
let's get the names. Don't just show your hand. Let's get who you said were involved in that plan.
Andrew Farah.
And Mr. Bedo. And
Mr. Ali.
Mr. Ali. Kazim Ali Sr.
Yes.
And Mr. Michael Kuban.
Well, I can't say.
Can't say. Right. But you learned of that plan. Let's call it the Bedo plan. Just for this conversation. You were aware of that plan.
I just told you no.
So when you first heard of that plan?
When I first heard of that plan?
Yeah.
Sometime in the night.
Around what time?
About 7, half 7, 8, somewhere there.
Right. But you know that is the plan, that they went down to execute and came back up without doing it?
Yes.
Right. And that's it. It's when they came back up, that's when you knew of that plan?
Yes.
Right. But you saw when they went into the water, when Mr. Bedo and Mr. Kurban went into the water?
Yes.
Right. No one stopped them?
No.
Why are you smiling? No one stopped them?
No.
No Paria person stopped them?
At that time, no.
Right. No Coast Guard person stopped them?
At that time, no.
All right.
Can I ask before you go on, and I hear what you say, they were not stopped, did you understand if they had permission? What Mr. Peterson has been asking you really is whether or not they were defying the permission.
I can't say.
Well, that's not what I'm asking, sir.
Well, that they had no permission, they were defying the fact that they had no permission, but were nonetheless prepared to carry out these.
I was not asking that.
Is that not what you were asking? Am I
no,
misrepresenting?
No, Mr. Chairman, that's not what I'm asking.
Then I'm misrepresenting.
Yes.
Forgive me, and I will.
I am asking the point, well, you answered it already, that they went into the water uninhibited. No one stopped them. You got that already, so you can't change that unless you want to. You don't want to change it, right? You know about something called a saturation diver?
Explain.
No, I'm not a diver. Do you know the concept of someone being trained as a saturation diver?
No.
What level diving you are trained to?
Paddy.
Paddy, yeah. You know Mr. Bedo's qualifications as a diver?
Well, I know he's advanced and confined space.
Right. How advanced do you know him to be?
I think he's...
You know he was trained all in Scotland and other places, right? Do you know that?
No, I don't.
Right. Do you know of something called a... Well, it may not be diving at that level, but do you know of something called a... Is a hazmat suit as a diver?
Hazmat suit?
Yeah.
I know a full suit, which, but I don't think that could work in this. That's a full suit with a helmet and.
No, well, you don't know what it is. No, before, in fairness to you, you don't know what it is.
No.
Right. Well, I'll deal with that later with someone else. But I was getting back to dealing with the aborted plan. Well, what I call the aborted plan, when Michael, Kurban, and they went down in the water and came back up. Right. The Bedo plan. Your plan, did you do any risk assessment as to if something goes wrong, what is going to happen? Your earlier plan, the one that you devised with Andrew.
That, well, we took into consideration the system had normalized.
Who was the standby diver in that?
I was.
Who was the rescue diver in that?
Andrew Farah.
And who was doing the diving?
Who was doing the?
Who was actually going to do the diving to retrieve the men in the...
Well, Andrew Farah.
Right. So Andrew was going to go down with the rope.
Yes.
And you putting down some rope.
Right.
You would have been involved in that process.
In the chamber, yes.
So you couldn't be the standby diver?
Well, I wasn't in the chamber. Yes, I would be in the chamber.
Yeah, you will be in the chamber, but you will not be the standby diver.
No.
A plan like that, properly thought out, ought to have a standby diver. That must be a compelling yes.
To me, it's argumentative.
It's argumentative.
Yes.
All right. So it is safe to go down, send one man down in the pipe, you alone in the chamber, hoping to be able to assist him. No other person nearby. Everybody else topside. That, you'd say, was safe.
Well, yes, considering the system had normalized and
Put another way.
We had to check.
There was no need for a standby diver there.
There would have been need for if we had one at the time.
Why you needed to have one?
To assist.
No, to be safe. Mr. Guerra, let's be frank with the Commission.
Yeah.
There ought to have been a rescue or standby diver to assist in that process.
Well, we had and we had called out other divers at the same
no,
time too.
That wouldn't be the answer. I am talking about you down in the chamber there by yourself. You're going to send a man down in the pipe. That's highly risky, isn't it? You know about risk assessment for diving?
Yes.
That will not be an approved plan, would it? After a risk assessment, that will not be an approved plan. We need to get on.
Well, let's see.
It will not be. Just say that. Be truthful. Be frank with us.
Under normal circumstances, no.
Right. I want to take you to some. I want to take you to something that you said. I may have misheard you, but I think I did not. You said the elbow at 5 during the clearing process was attached?
Yes.
When was that broken?
That after we had cleared the riser at number 6.
So you all were pumping with that elbow attached?
We were air blowing, no?
Air blowing with the elbow attached at 5, which is connected back to the rest of the system.
And the for the final stages.
No. Wait, we'll get there. At a stage where you were blowing,
yes,
the elbow you're telling us at 5 was attached.
And removed, blanked, and blown from on the riser.
Eventually.
Yes.
Don't take me there yet. We're not there yet. At a blowing stage, because it jumped out to me when you said it to the chairman, the elbow at 5 was attached to the loop whilst you connect a nipple, let's call it that, and blowing product, hopefully to get the line cleared down to your village.
Yes, because it was a closed system.
Right. And at some point, after blowing, how many days you all blew for?
The whole process took about 2 weeks.
When you all broke that elbow?
We took off the one when we finished.
No, 5.
When we brought down the liquid. The first was number 6, blank, and number 5, and blanked. With valves and to blow from there.
Now, I know you weren't supposed to hear Mr. Kazimali's evidence, so I'm assuming you didn't. I was putting to Mr. Kazimali when I saw one of the daily reports that other side beyond the elbow at 5 had an 8-foot lowering in that other line called the...
At number 6?
B5, the BS80 or Ben 80. Pipe Ben 80, PB80. And he almost dismissed me. But you are telling us the elbow was still connected there. That could explain that lowering on the pipe Ben 80. You know what I'm talking about?
Pipe Ben 80?
Yes.
No.
No, what? You don't know?
How could it?
You don't know what I'm talking about, a note pipe Ben 80?
Because we were slip blank by the valve.
Right. But it wasn't broken as we were conveyed. It was, you were what? By the valve?
Yes.
Did you pressure test that valve to see if it was holding?
What valve?
The valve you just mentioned.
I said it was slip blank by the valve.
Yes. When you say slip blank by the valve, you mean the valve was closed?
It's a plate that is cut and slipped between both flanges at the valve.
Right. Did you pressure check that to see if when you were blowing, if product could have seeped from that?
Product cannot pass that.
Did you check it?
I am telling you that product cannot pass that. It's a solid
just
plate.
Just pause for a minute, because I'm not understanding, I'm afraid, Mr. Peterson. So it may be useful if you use that board behind you, just so that you can draw what you mean.
This is number 5, right?
Yeah, no. Why don't you start again, right? You just do it to the right of the drawing that's on there. There's a pen. There's a pen below you, right? Don't touch that drawing. Just draw the elbow area that you're talking about. Start afresh.
Okay.
Right. Explain what you mean.
There's a valve here, and this here tee off, going down. This going back to Benny T. There's a slip blank here.
Right. Well, first of all,
and then you're going here.
Right. So the bit that part is the riser, is it?
Yes, there.
Yes. That's the riser.
Yes, and the flanges.
Okay. So where you put the wavy line now, that's the water level,
yes.
Is it? Right. And then there's that pipe goes down. That's the riser.
Yeah.
It has an elbow above it, which goes off to the right as we're looking at it. Yes? That's above the water line.
Yes.
That's on berth number 5.
5.
And then you put a little squiggle,
X.
for want of a better expression. What's that?
A valve.
That's a valve, is it?
Yes.
And that allows what, air in and out?
No, that's it. That's where you would, if they're using the line at number 5, you close that valve and the product will go to number 5. If you wanted to go at number 6 using 36, it would go to number 6.
So that valve transfers any product,
yes,
from either being on site at 5 or 6.
Yes.
Right, and you were asked about PB80.
That's way past.
That's a bend, is it?
Well, yeah, it turns like east, then swings south and down.
And goes to one of the tanks?
Well, it goes to pile bent 80 and eventually to a tank.
Yes, all right. Now I understand, Mr. Peterson. You can take it from wherever you want to take it.
What I'm really interested in is that when the blowing process was taking place,
yes,
there had not been a detachment of the elbow during the blowing process.
Mm-hmm.
You got that?
Yes.
Right. Since on the pipe and the risers, I will stick with it for the time being. The learned chairman asks you about the removal of the plugs, and you say that you would, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I misquote you, that the plugs were removed in this case because you had to put in the riser that was at a this riser was at a random length.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
It was longer than the original.
Right. But it's supposed to be the length of the original.
No, it wouldn't.
To connect, well, how it connecting back with the elbow on top?
Because there was a new piece of fabrication to be done.
Where?
On the top of the riser to connect. We were supposed to use a T there.
Right. And
not an elbow.
You would need barriers. I can't.
It was supposed to be reinstalled at the top.
Right. So there was work to be done, welding work to be done on the new riser at the top.
Yes.
Right. So it was not finished and polished and had no hot works to be done.
It had no hot work to be done at the time on the 25th.
No. On the riser. Don't jump forward. On the riser. There was no hot work intended to be done on the new riser to be installed. That's what you're saying.
When?
Ever.
The riser we had to do hot work on the riser. The plug and the migration barrier were to be reinstalled on the top. of the new riser.
Right. Because the new riser was, according to you, at a random length and needed to be worked on.
Yes.
In order to get to the proper length to connect back to the original elbow that was removed.
Yes.
Just assist us a bit. If that riser was not that one at a random length, you would have installed a finished riser at the proper length without removing the plugs? You follow my question? If you want me to repeat it, I'll do it.
I am going based on our method statement to this particular job. I can't foresee.
No, asking you for assistance, asking you for help.
No, I can't answer you. Sorry.
Why can't you answer me?
I can't.
Or
give you
won't
an
answer me?
I can't give you an answer to that.
I'm not sure I'm following at the moment. Can you ask the question again, please?
You said that this one was at a random length, so you had to cut on all of that at the top.
Yes.
But there are times when the risers are at the fitted length or the correct length. It wasn't random length, as you call it. This one happened to be random length. Did you not say that this...
Yes, it was at a random length, so we had to remove the plug.
Not all risers to be installed tends to be at a random length. Sometimes they're already finished and exact.
Okay.
Is not, no, that,
yes,
I don't know why I'm asking you. Right. In such a case, you could remove the plugs using a T-tool after installing the riser. You smile.
You could.
Right. Explain to us how you use the T-tool to remove the plugs after installing the new riser. Explain to us how that is done physically.
It's a socket onto a bar.
Right.
And yes, you remove the bolts, you slack the bolts, and take the migration barrier out. You lift the hose and you release the air in the plug.
And you pull up the plugs.
And you pull it up.
Right. And at that stage, when the plugs come up, that new riser would be above sea level.
Yes.
To connect to the elbow that going back into all the racks of pipes. Isn't that so?
Yes.
Right. In such a case, that new riser being above sea level and the plugs now being removed via the long T tool, there would be no occasion for a delta P factor, latent or patent. Isn't that so?
I would guess not.
I like your guess. Right. In the hyperbaric chamber with the men working there, you know the quality of air is supposed to remain pristine, clean.
Yes.
Hydrocarbons coming into the hyperbaric chamber is not making the air pristine. It compromises the air, doesn't it?
Yes, but can I explain something?
You're going to be able to explain. All I ask you is hyperbaric, being in a hyperbaric chamber with hydrocarbon fumes coming into the chamber compromises the air in the chamber. That is a yes?
Yes.
Right. You want to explain. Go ahead now.
Okay. Firstly, for you to get fumes in from that liquid oil, you have to, it had to reach a certain temperature to emit fumes.
Yes.
Secondly, we had a vent at the top where we were testing the air quality at all times in the chamber.
Yes.
And if that had changed, the divers would have
been alerted?
Yes.
All right, I know that. But you don't know what fumes were possibly coming up from that line. That could have gone in the chamber. You didn't know that. That's why you have to keep checking it. Isn't that so?
To maintain the air quality, yes.
Right. Yes, the reason you keep checking it is because you know it could go wrong. So you want to be able to alert the divers.
Yes.
All right. Do you know, and tell me if you know or you don't know, that Mr. Bedo was concerned about diving into the pipe even on the Sunday because of the possibility of radiation coming from that line?
I don't know that.
You don't know that?
No.
And he wanted Paria to give him an undertaking that if anything goes wrong with him, they will pay him for the medical bills for the next 20 years if he goes in there and get radiation. You know about that?
No, I don't.
Right. You realize that Mr. Bedo is a more highly qualified diver than you are.
Yes.
And his risk on Sunday is that he could be exposing himself to a danger in that pipe because he doesn't know.
Hang on, just a minute. First of all, if there's to be some evidence about radiation from the fumes, radiation exists everywhere.
Well, I don't know.
Well, I do. Radiation exists in minerals and in the earth and so on. The issue here is whether it can be released, and the question of releasing of radiation by the use of extraction of oil, whether through or gases, through fracking or through other processes, is a controversial topic. If you're going to be relying on that, I need to understand on what basis you're doing so. If Mr. Bedo is saying that he wanted reassurance about potential dangers to him, and that is why he was less than enthusiastic about going into the pipe, I'm not clear about that at the moment on the evidence that we've had.
Yes.
But my concern is that if you're going to introduce something like that as being the basis for why he was not prepared to go into the pipe, two things arise. First of all, I want the expert evidence to support it. And secondly, there is a distinction between taking a risk when people's lives are in danger, which might have been in the case on Friday or Saturday, from that which might be risking yourself when the people are already dead. And if that was the case on Sunday, you could understand why that might be a risk factor that he would wish to take into account in risking his own health.
Mr. Chairman,
so I need to be clear about what it is that's being
yes,
put here.
Mr. Chairman, I am not using it in the manner in which you are saying that I'm using it. I am using it to the extent that it is a risk to be considered, and as you said, depending on the time of the Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, one could dispose of the risk because of it being Friday or Saturday, right, and be more tolerant to the risk because it's Sunday.
So what
but
are you
I just
asking?
want to identify it as a possible risk that a trained diver had considered in his plan.
Right.
That's all I'm using it for.
Well, if you're identifying it as a potential risk, with this witness, you're going to need to ask him, first of all, whether he even recognised it as it existed as a risk.
Yes, sir, I'm
because
going to ask him that.
Not everybody does.
I'm going to ask him that.
All right, well, all right.
So I asked him if he was aware, and if he is not aware, I told you, tell me yes or no. Were you aware that Mr. Bedo was considering radiation as a risk factor on Sunday?
No.
Right. That's what I was at. You know you can get radiation from your cell phone, and that's why people don't want to use 5G. Do you know that? Yeah. Now, the toolbox meeting, you attended that.
Yes.
This is not the first job like this you did. You said you did one in 2020.
Yes.
Similar riser being installed and that kind of thing?
Yes.
You know the installation and removal of the migration barriers are important steps in the process. Don't you?
Yes.
The toolbox meeting, you signed that form.
Yes.
The removal of the barriers on the 25th was never mentioned on that form.
Because Kazim Ali was supposed to fill in a section on that, being the supervisor for that day.
I asked you that yet. Have you ever seen the form?
Which form?
For the 25th that you signed?
Yes.
You know that the removal of the plugs, the barriers, that is not mentioned on the form.
Because I told you, Mr. Kazim Ali.
I asked if you know it's not there.
No, it's not there.
Right. When you signed it, at what stage? You recall?
Right after the toolbox talk.
Right after the toolbox. After Mr. Kazim Ali wrote up the form?
No. After the talk was done, we had to do the air quality test on the compressor.
So you signed a blank form?
I signed when Mr. Victor Del Paul put in his section.
Put in his section?
Yes. And Mr. Kazim Ali would do his own after.
Could you pull up, Mr. Chairman, with your leave, could you pull up 1070, the toolbox form, please, for bird 6? Yes. That's the form, you recognize it?
Yes.
Could you scroll along so you could see your signature? Where is your signature on that form?
Right there, where the pointer is.
Right, where Dexter Guerra is there. Right, when you signed this form, what was not on it?
The discussion between the removal of the works to be done that day.
Right. You see topics discussed? Were those filled in?
Yes.
You read that before you signed it?
Yes.
You saw anything there about moving of plugs?
It's not on the form, no.
Right. Did you call the attention to Mr. Kazim Ali Jr.? The removal of them plugs, you didn't have it there? Tell us about it, but you didn't put it there. Look, it's not there. Did you do that?
I did not.
Is it that you didn't do that because it was never discussed?
It was discussed.
I'm talking about then, eh?
I'm talking about then.
Right. You sure you're not saying that now because of what happened?
I'm not.
Because you like to follow procedure?
We will, yes.
No, you.
We try to, yes.
No, you, not we.
Yes.
You, not you, not
yes.
we.
Well,
you.
Yes.
You like to follow procedure?
Try my best.
You are a man who stick to procedure and what is to be done.
I try my best, sir.
What about the removing of the badge that caused the suspension?
Okay, I did not do that on my own, sir.
So when you have company, does do the things out of sequence?
Can I explain?
You will get a chance, you know. You see, this lady is very competent.
Can I explain to you now?
No, I'm not interested in that now, yet. But that activity of yours in February 18th, when was it? When did you do the wrong thing?
17th.
17th. A mere 8 days before this sad event of the death of these divers.
Yes.
You, in the same contract, same job, you remove a badge without authorization.
You didn't give me a chance to explain.
I'm coming to give you the chance.
Okay.
I just want to know if you remove the badge without authorization.
No.
Right. So you saw that Mr. Kazim Ali, he's of LMCS, right?
Yes.
He investigated the event.
Yes.
Right. You want to explain? Go ahead. Let me hear this.
The morning of the incident, that particular incident.
The 17th?
Yes. We had an arrangement between us, the maintenance, to move early, 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay? The maintenance crew, they came in minutes to 7.
Mm-hmm.
We about 10 to 7 somewhere there.
Mm-hmm.
Normal channels, and the normal thing with the crane badge is we try to move early when going in between structures because of the wind. And that creates a hazard because we could either put a hole in the badge, sink right there.
Yeah.
So we try to do it at that time. I called shipping office, normal, because they govern the harbor. I asked the OTS at the time.
Well, I don't want to spend too long on this because that's not what the commission really looking into.
Okay, no, but you're looking into this, so I'm giving you the explanation.
So basically you're saying it's not your fault only?
Right?
No, you got to let him. I know he's taking his time, but he's allowed to
okay,
say.
yes, Mr. Judge. I just didn't want to.
I spoke to the person in charge of the port and told him we did not have a permit and explained to him that we wanted to go with the badge before the wind and water get choppy because of where we were going to position the badge. Right? And we spoke of the permit. And I told him that Rajiv, well, the maintenance people, will come with the permit. We didn't have a permit. Normal procedure is we go out and permits come on the badge to be set.
So it was more convenient to move at that time?
It was more safe to move at that time.
It was more safe to move at that time. Right. And you move, even though you know you're supposed to have the permit first, but it was more safe to move then.
Because permission was granted.
Okay. Permission was granted?
Yes.
But you got demoted as a result of that, didn't you?
Because nobody wanted to hear my side of it.
Including your Kazim Ali?
He agreed with Paria.
Including your Ahmad Ali? Nobody wanted to hear you?
Have not. That's it. Yeah.
None of them wanted to hear you?
No, I spoke to Mr. Ali and Mr. Kazim.
But they demoted you?
Both, yes.
Isn't that the kind of thing that happened on the 25th when it was more convenient to remove the plugs there and then than to try to remove it with the teeth?
Can I say one more thing on that?
On which?
On the moving of the badge?
No, well.
Can I please?
Go ahead.
The same thing was done on that day when we were going out on the 25th.
Yeah.
That we did the week before.
Right. So you, even though you get demoted, you do the same thing again?
I wasn't in charge.
All right. Who was in charge then?
Mr. Kazim Ali, Jr.
Mr. Kazim Ali, Jr.
And it was given to him same way.
Right.
Via the same steps.
That's what I'm trying to get from you. That isn't it that the plug was probably removed on the 25th because it was more convenient to do it than at that stage than to try to do it after you install the riser?
Did any talk discussion came up with removing the plug? No discussions was made on removing the plug. Nothing was up. Nothing happened on that. Because the method statement would have to be changed, right? How we were going to retrieve it? How were we supposed to reach it?
That's the reason you all remove it, because you all couldn't figure out how to reach it from on top?
Well, we would have. I feel we would, if we did that, we might have had to lower down somebody with the crane inside the pipe to remove it.
Or get a longer tool, because that T-tool is made well.
Okay.
Get a longer tool.
We would remove the vibration barrier with the T-tool.
The T-tool is made by LMCS, isn't it?
Well, how are we going to get the air hose?
Isn't the
yes.
the tool, and you all make a longer one. If you need a longer one, you make a shorter
Correct.
one. Right.
What are we going to do with the hose?
So that was the issue too. How are you going to remove the hose? So we should remove the barriers now. Is not what happened?
But that is what is stated here. And that at that time it's to be removed.
That's not in the toolbox meeting.
Can I ask you something, please? You told me in answer to questions to me earlier and now to Mr. Peterson that the piece that you were putting on was very much larger. Longer, yes, than the piece that you'd taken off.
Yes.
It was at a random length, I think you described. Yes. But presumably it was at that random length so that somebody on the outside could then measure where they wanted to cut and then cut that piece off.
Okay.
That's right. Don't say okay.
Yes.
I'm not manufacturing.
Yes.
So one can understand you're putting it on a piece of pipe that is much longer than you would otherwise need. You cut that pipe off where you think you need it once it's in place. Yes?
Yes.
Then it would be shorter, wouldn't it?
A bit.
Well, how much is a bit?
But could about 2-3 feet longer?
2 or 3 feet you'd cut off, is that all? I mean, did you know?
Well, no, I can't give you an exact measure.
Right, well, I mean, forgive me, Mr. Guerra, but, this is obviously quite important, all right?
Yes.
It makes obvious sense that if you could safely remove the barriers when they were closer to you, you would do so, all right? And I understand that the method statement says that's when they should be removed, all right? When you're in the chamber.
Yes.
But you're telling us, as I understand it, that the only reason you were removing them on that occasion at that time was because it was when you put the new piece on, it would be too far down.
Yes.
Right. And that I understand. But you must have put them in when you had the old piece on.
Yes.
Right? So we know you can do it that far. It can't have been much taller, the new piece that you were putting on, once you cut it to where you needed it, or are you telling us that it was quite a lot taller?
It was longer.
I appreciate it was longer. You've told us.
It would have been longer if you even cut.
But what are we talking about? A foot, 5 feet, 10 feet?
Between 3-4 feet, I think.
3 or 4 feet taller. That's it, is
yes.
it? So I just want to make a note of this. So the new piece attached, once cut to the right length, would be about 2 or 3 feet, 3 or 4 feet?
Longer.
3 or 4?
3 or 4.
Yeah, all right. 3 or 4 feet longer.
And that's just an estimate.
No, I follow that. I'm not going to hold you to it exactly, right? But that is what you understood the position to be, all right?
Yes.
Now, so obviously you fitted the barriers into the pipe.
Yes.
And when you did that, it would have been just 3 or 4 feet shorter than where you would end up being.
Yes.
Right? Was there anything to prevent you from extending the T-pipe by 3 or 4 feet?
No.
You could have done that, couldn't you? And then that would take care of the mechanical barrier that was on there. But then you've got the inflatable one below that, haven't you?
Yes.
How would you attach a hose or something to the valve to let the air out? How do you let the air out of that?
There's a valve.
Right.
The hose that comes with the plug has a valve with the gauge on it.
Right. So, I mean, do you just press a button and it lets the air out?
No, you turn a valve.
Sorry?
You turn the valve.
You turn it. So there's some sort of tool to turn it, is there?
It's like a ball valve.
A ball valve?
Yes.
Right. But you were able to inflate it once in place?
Yes.
Yes? Can you deflate it? Could you have deflated it? Well, you did deflate it from exactly the same place, didn't you?
Yes.
Was there any reason why you would not have been able to deflate it with this once cut extended piece of pipe?
Because it would be so much lower than where we have it, where we did the inflation from, that it's higher.
It would have been too far?
Yes. I think we might have somebody had to lean in or hold somebody by the foot and carry them into.
You'd have had to put someone into the pipe?
Yes.
But it would have been dry?
Right.
Yeah. And it would have been above ground?
Yes.
What was the distance between between the water level, now that you put this new piece on, what would have been the distance between that and the top of the cut pipe, the new section, where you'd cut it? What would that distance have been?
An average?
Yeah.
15, no, 19 average.
How much?
About 19 feet, I think.
About 19 feet? As an average?
An average.
Right. Now, would it have been possible, if it were impossible to remove the barriers with that length of pipe, you could have done it in two sections, couldn't you? One above the water line, so that you could reach in, and then put another section on so you get to the height you want it to be. I mean, I appreciate it's more work.
I can't say per se to the contract.
I'm sorry?
That would be dependent on the contract.
But I mean, like anything else, things change, and it may be that once considered, it was not possible to remove the barriers without cutting the pipe lower down, a new flange, another piece of pipe put on, and a new flange. That would be one way of doing it, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would, yes, and it would have to be discussed at a higher level.
Well, it's not your responsibility, yes. I understand. All right, thank you, Mr. Pearson.
It's more convenient to remove the barriers when you did, when they were removed, isn't it? Less work. The exchange you just had with the learned chairman sounds a fair amount of work. So it's easier to remove it before you bring in the new piece, isn't it?
I cannot speak about towards the contract, okay? So that I can't answer that question.
All right. Or won't?
I cannot answer you on that because
the new piece, that, as you were demonstrating to the chairman,
yes,
has to be the same length to fit when it goes in. It has to end at the same length to connect back with the elbow from the main set of lines, isn't it?
No.
So when you install the random piece, don't you have to cut it to get it to line up with the elbow that is already existing?
As I explained to you before, it wasn't going to be an elbow. It was going to be a T.
That's how it's connecting. Well, better yet, it has to line back up with a T. Now it has to line up with two sides. A T is this, huh? An elbow is just this.
Okay.
So it's only one side it has to line up with. But you're telling me now, and thank you for that, it's a T.
Right.
So there's a greater responsibility to bring it down to the level to line up with both sides. Isn't that so? Yeah, draw it.
Draw it if you want.
No, listen, a T is shorter than an elbow. You know that? I'm telling you. A T is shorter than an elbow.
You know. All I'm saying is that whatever that random thing is, you have to cut off piece.
Yes.
And after you cut that off, you can use your T, adjust your T as you want, your T tool, to do the work on the barriers.
What you're asking me is what I just explained.
Right. So that's a yes.
Right.
And to get to deflate the inflatable plug,
yes.
Tell me if you know this, the manufacturers also sell an extended hose so you can remove yourself out of the zone to deflate the plug.
Okay.
They have short hose, long hose, extended hose. You know that?
Okay.
No, not okay. You know that.
You're telling me
I'm asking you. Don't you know that?
Yes.
Right. So if you have to get a longer hose to safely deflate the plug to prevent the delta P, you buy one. You ever hear about something colloquially called cutting corners? Or half-baked? I want to suggest to you that the plans that you all have developed on that Friday evening were half-baked. Friday evening, the rescue plans were half-baked. Incomplete.
Okay, but we didn't do anything to help the guys, though.
I didn't say that. Please, just checking my list. I should be finished. This one. Were you ever interviewed by the police after this incident?
No.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, I think we'll take a break here. We did. I don't mean that offensively in any way at all. All right. We'll take a break now, I think, rather than troop on. Do you have anything, Mr. Maharaj? No. No. Well, then I have one question only, and then you can go, all right? And so does Mr. Wilson. All right, well, let's take a few minutes and see if we can deal with this so that you can leave, all right? My question is simply this. Is the document that's on the screen at the moment, which is the toolbox document you were referred to by Mr. Peterson,
yes.
All right? And he pointed out to you, nowhere on that document does it mention anything at all to do with removing the barriers. That's right, isn't it? And you told him that the position is that Mr. Kazim Ali Jr. was supposed to put it in later on.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is there is nothing on there about the actual jobs that you were supposed to do at all, is there? I mean, the carpet testing, anything. There's nothing on there about the work that was to be done on that day.
Yes.
Is there?
No.
So it's not as though the barriers are the only things that have been left out, lest anyone should get the false impression. There was no indication on this document about topics that were discussed at all beyond safety.
Yes.
All right, thank you. That's all I wanted to ask you. Mr. Wilson.
Good morning, Mr. Garrett.
Good morning.
Just want to ask you how much experience you've had working with these types of jobs. And, go ahead.
Some.
Okay. And you've been diving with LMCS as well?
Yes.
All right. So in your experience of diving in these types of scope of works, just outside of the job of the day, are you aware of other capabilities of other diving companies, or let's just say the local dive industry?
Yes.
You're aware of them, right? So I want to go to Coast Guard. So are you aware of Coast Guard's capabilities?
No.
All right. So you know industry's capabilities, but not Coast Guard.
Yes.
All right. Had you known the capability of Coast Guard to enact a rescue or participate in a rescue when you were being told that Coast Guard is coming to rescue, in your experience, well, in hindsight now, why didn't you challenge that Coast Guard may not have the capability to rescue? We're on site, and we can probably begin a plan. But go ahead, but to begin a plan.
Okay, firstly, we didn't want to aggravate anyone. And it meaning that we had an incident this Saturday morning where they sent security to remove some of our crew members.
This is Paria security?
Yes.
Sorry.
Because of an incident on number 5 where the guys wanted to take a look in the pipe. Our guys wanted to take a look in the pipe, and everybody was just telling them, move from here, don't come here. After they removed the flange, the blind flange. So that's the reason we weren't showing any aggression towards anybody.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'd remove the question I have for your knowledge about Coast Guard's capability, but you said something very interesting in managing the incident. From your statement, I pick up that your LMCS leadership on site in terms of the dive supervisor. Would you consider yourself LMCS leadership on site?
Yes.
Yeah. Because you indicated to either the incident commander or Colin Piper his request to come to the shipping office that you're not going to move. So obviously you had some sort of experience where you felt you had an authority to decline the client because you're managing a site.
Yes, we would. Well, both of us wouldn't leave.
All right.
I would stay and Andrew would go.
So you are essentially the dive supervisor's delegate in his removal from the site, and was it agreed? How did that come about?
Just a discussion between me and Andrew.
All right. All right. One last question in terms of the manning power at that time to effectively initiate a rescue. Would you say that manning power existed?
At the time, it was me and Andrew, and we called in for support.
All right. And sorry, I just have to continue on from that. So at the time, it's just you and Andrew Farah in terms of manning resources, LMCS with a capability to go into the water.
Yes.
How long it took before, in your eyes, from what you witnessed, before help reached on the scene?
Just about the time when Budram came out.
Budram came out. Yes. You can put our time period on that, or from the time it was just both of you all to when Budram came out?
I can't.
No problem. All right. Thank you.
All right, good. Well, then you are free to go. Please do not discuss the evidence that you have given with any of your colleagues who are outside in various different rooms with or without their telephones. All right? Please do not do so. I suggest the best thing for you to do is to leave the building. All right? If you want to watch proceedings, do so on screen. All right? But thank you very much for coming. Appreciate your evidence. You're free to go now.
Thank you.
Right. My watch seems to be fast, so let me just have a look at the time. Yes. We'll resume at 5:02:12. Thank you.